You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the April 24th meeting of the Michigan City Historic Preservation Commission. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
To order. And if Greg would do the roll call, please.
Joyce Dalton.
Present.
Dan Granquist.
Dan is not going to be here. He, I know for sure.
Okay, then I'm here. Amy Bowman.
Amy may be late if she can get here.
Okay. Dwayne Hurt.
Dwayne's supposed to be here. He said he was coming.
Gigi McCabe?
Mealy.
Okay.
Well, it does have your McCabe on there too.
Oh, okay.
Mealy, okay. So don't pronounce it meal in French for honey, but mealy.
Oh, you can pronounce it that way. It's okay.
Well, okay. I'll shake it up. Roger.
Yes.
Lauren Zimmer.
Here.
And then Dwayne just walked in.
Yes.
Jonas Zimmer.
Jonas is, I'll share that, he is at the hospital in Hobart having tests. He's going to have heart surgery on Wednesday, so he's supposed to find out tonight. So he said, I may be there late, but he said if it's real late, I'm not going to drive. So anyway, keep him in your prayers, please. So.
Who's that?
Jonas.
Oh.
Okay. Can we have an approval for the agenda, please? Motion?
Oh, I move that we approve the agenda.
Second, please.
I'll second it.
Okay. I think Larry.
There we
Do
go.
you want to be called Lawrence or do you want to be called Larry?
Larry's fine.
Okay, thank you. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, same? Okay. Has everyone had a chance to read over your minutes from our last meeting? And if you have, are there any corrections or additions that need to be made to it?
Was Gigi supposed to be was she on this the last time?
Yes.
Okay. So
I don't
that's
know
fine.
why we all got an email, Gigi, appointing you to this for tonight, your first meeting.
Yeah, there's a swearing thing that I'm supposed to do. And I
You didn't
get
swear
it.
yet? You should have been with me Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's really, Gail is very good at that and it doesn't take very long.
Yeah, I just haven't done it.
Well, you better or we'll get a thing next time that you aren't on yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to look it over?
Yeah.
Can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second?
And I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Okay, any correspondence that has come in? You're probably just getting phone calls.
Yes.
I'm sure. Okay, we'll move along to maintenance review.
Okay. So our first maintenance review is CO 2023-20-20 and 606 Pine. So this was a replacement of a flat roof. So they replaced the existing roof. Apparently it had been on there for about 33 years. And it was beginning to leak and fail, and they replaced it with a white gravel, coating.
Okay.
You say about 30 years?
That's what they wrote on the thing, on their report, was leaking, 33 years old. Yeah, what they had.
Well, that's about the life.
Yeah. So the next COA is 2023-021. And this is the address of 220 East 8th Street. This was painting. So the colors that they went with was a, was a gray color, as well as they added a white accent on the shutters as well as the door. Now the next one is 2023-24, and this is 318 East 7th Street. And this was replacing existing shingle roof, as well as painting the colors that they proposed. Colonial Revival Green, Craftsman Brown, and Rookwood Red are all colors that are in our approved color palette. Hopefully he continues with the work because I think it looks, pretty good so far. And the last one is COA 2023-026, 627 Pine Street. They were replacing a fence line on the back of the property using, I think it's called dog ear, where the corners are taken off, and that was really just replacing exactly in terms of size and dimensions as what was existing.
Okay. Anyone have any questions about any of those? Okay, then we will move on to the COA.
And the first two, 22 and 23 for demolition, were withdrawn by the applicant. So we don't have to review those. So,
Oh my goodness, I just called my friend to tell her that.
Withdrawn as in not demolishing them anymore?
right, yeah.
And
Well-
I don't know why.
Because there's quite a process. If you're going to apply for demolition, there's a lot of things you need to prove, that there's structural damage, that it's,
You mean they can't be rented like they are now, people living in it?
so I think the only reason on the application was just beautification of the neighborhood, and that's not enough for us. So we needed some evidence. At minimum, the one was non-contributing, one was contributing. So the rules are a little different on that. Contributing, we need a lot of information before we can say that's a good idea. So usually it's a matter of public safety is not the only reason. But non-contributing, there's a little more leeway, but even at that, they need to have a statement from a licensed structural engineer that's familiar with historic buildings, as well as some kind of a written plan of what's gonna happen with that property in the future. And we didn't have that.
It almost looked like they wanted that whole strip for something else. That's me.
Well,
If
so
you've
all they
driven by
need to do
there.
is get a hold of someone who can go in and look at the house, because it's very possible that
It
there
is,
are
Right.
some serious problems.
it could be a situation, but we need proof, so
Okay.
we didn't have enough. We'd have recommended denial, but you guys deny it because there wasn't enough information. So he just made it simple and went through them, so if he gets all the information, he can come back and apply again. So that's those two.
Okay.
So that speeds things along. And that brings us to 2023-025 for 421 East 8th Street. We've had this project a few times before, and they're continuing work on the property, waiting for contractors right now to do some of the work you guys have approved previously. But what we're looking at right now is storm windows in the front and some windows in the back. So this property was rated outstanding, actually, in the survey. It's a Queen Anne built around 1890. The project this time is removing the divided light storm window glass on the front window and replacing with a solid pane of glass. The interior double hung window is to remain. So for whatever reason, at some point in time, they put a divided light storm on top of a double hung window. I don't know why. So that's that part. And then on the back side, on the southeast corner of the house, there's some windows there that they would like to replace. So they're talking about 2 non-original windows. They've already been replaced with vinyl windows. They would like to replace those now with Anderson A-series double hung windows. And then just adjacent to those, around the corner on the south side, are 2 more windows that they say are non-original. They're certainly not as old as the house. And those have a divided light pattern to them. They want to replace those with the same thing, the 2 Anderson Series A double hung windows. Staff recommendation, the finding of fact, solid pane storm window meets the guidelines. New windows should be based on surviving windows extant on the building instead of later replacements. Anderson A series, which are fiberglass, have been pre-approved as replacements by the HPC. Windows to be replaced are an area that was added or enclosed later than the original construction of the main structure. East windows are currently 1/1 vinyl windows. Proposed replacements are the same style. Existing south windows are wood divided light. The wood is seriously deteriorated. South windows are in the same room directly adjacent to the 1/1 windows proposed to be replaced and are on the rear facade. They're not visible from the public way. So the motions, 3 different things we're looking at here. Replacement of glass in the front wood storm window with a single pane of glass, recommend approval. Then replacement of the vinyl replacement windows on the east side of the house at the south end with Anderson A-Series fiberglass 1/1 double hung windows, recommend approval. Replacement of the 2 divided light windows on the south facade with Anderson A-Series fiberglass double hung simulated divided light windows to match the existing, would recommend approval, but alternatively 1/1 windows to match others in the house could be approved since they're on the rear elevation of the house. So that would be your decision.
Can you clarify the window at the front you're seeing will be a double hung window, or is it?
It already is.
It already is.
They put, whoever owned the house before put a storm window that looks with all the,
Well, it's just that you said something about it being a solid glass panel, which I wasn't sure if that was what
Right.
they were putting in, just one.
What they're putting in is a solid glass in the
storm.
They're gonna actually, I think, use the existing wood frame and put a solid piece of glass in that frame
Oh.
as a storm. So,
Okay. And I wanted to just ask about the fiberglass windows. And there may be something new. When I was here on the board before, we allowed wood windows with a coated exterior. Is that what these are?
these are actually fiberglass
Okay.
all the way through. So in the new guidelines, when we were reviewing that, we had certain windows that the commission at the time approved that could be used in cases of replacement, and that's one in particular. So I think theirs and the Marvin windows that are fiberglass are the 2 fiberglass varieties.
The quality level's a little higher, I guess.
Yeah,
So it's gonna match the windows that they already replaced.
right.
What about this one in the back?
And they didn't say anything about that little square
one?
That little square one?
They didn't say anything about that one.
And the pictures show 3 windows on one side
Yeah.
and 2 on the other. So all 5 of those will be replaced?
That's what I'm guessing, yes.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
I'm not sure how we got off on 2, but
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But that's what she
It's
said,
been a while
yeah.
since I've been to that property, to be
Okay.
honest. And they are bad. The sun just shines right on that south side, the weather hits it, and they look pretty sad. We were out there earlier this year. So I would vouch for the condition being pretty bad.
I like the simplicity of the structure though.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed how it all lines up with the rafter heads?
Yeah. Yeah, nice job.
But why aren't they gonna fix that little window? That's gonna bug me. I don't even know what's behind that little window.
Probably a
Probably in the
bad-
bathroom, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking too, but, okay. Anyway, forgive me.
What are they doing with the siding?
They're painting
Painted.
the
Painted
interior.
it?
Yeah, that's what they were gonna
They've
do.
been really good. They've got a really preservation-minded architect that's working on the porch. And then they've got H.G. Chrisman out of South Bend that's gonna be doing the work. And they have a division that's strictly historic preservation division of their construction company. And the lady heading that up was the director of the Historic Preservation Commission in South Bend. So she is really on target with what should be done. So I think she's got a great team, Terry does, working
Well,
on this
and
house.
she's enjoying that too, I think, because they know what they're doing, so
Yes.
that's good. And the only reason I know is I pick up the lady next door for church every Sunday. And she keeps me posted. I'm like, did you know? No. Anyway, okay. Does anybody have any questions for Deb?
No, sounds
Okay,
good.
may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
We need to decide which style of windows on the back.
Oh.
Because she would like to have ones that aren't divided light. That's what's there now.
I think they should match the rest of the house. That's my
I
personal.
just, yeah, I don't know, I just don't know if historically all of them were divided because it's a later addition.
Right,
That these, you know, these newer replacement might just have been the first to be replaced and the wood ones just haven't been replaced. Because the problem is I don't have any this is one of the few buildings that I don't have records. I don't have the original records. Most of the other buildings in the historic district, I have a folder. This one I don't. So I don't know when these replacement windows were even put in.
I did see in some of the stuff, and I don't know, you may have seen this too, there was a note on this property that said it had been moved, the house. I know nothing about that.
I never heard that.
So I don't, and maybe that's why there's not a folder for it. Maybe it was somewhere
They
else.
moved the folder and it fell
Maybe it
off.
had a different address, but it certainly hasn't been any time recently.
No.
So I don't know the story on that.
Okay, so I guess we need, first of all,
So I have a comment. My feeling is that the 6/6 looks rather colonial. And I don't know that that's appropriate for a cottage
For that
like this.
age,
I think they would have not been divided, or at most, they would sometimes have just two verticals in the upper.
right, and bottom
So
planes, yeah.
I would be willing, I'd be more in favor of just saying, just put plain ones in like the attic window up above.
Well, all their other windows on the sides have all been replaced, like that one that is shown. Well, yeah, like, exactly like the one upstairs. They're kind of beige and then they're into the,
So no divisions.
no.
That's the way I think it should look.
Okay, we have a motion that we're going to recommend if they will go along with it, which I think she will, is to do the 1/1 plane.
And that's what she preferred anyway, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, Larry's making a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Okay, so Kyle, you can let her know. Any other questions about this house?
No.
Okay. Then we will move on.
Is it presently occupied?
Yeah, no. I don't even think there's power to it yet.
I don't think
I don't
so.
think so.
When it's real cold, you don't see anybody in there working. So when it got cold out. No, because if you look in that picture, there's your electrical panel right there with nothing in it.
This is a historic photo.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
1996.
Did you get the pictures?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. All right, any other reports that need to come before us? All right,
I was kind of wondering about the old Carnegie Library, what's happening to that?
you mean the old Michigan City Public Library?
Oh, okay.
They're working on it. Have you been there lately?
Inside of it or near it?
Both.
I've been near it.
Nobody's ever there during the day.
Yeah.
Where is that building? I never mind.
The old
across the
library
street.
down here on 8th Street.
Do you mean the one that was renovated into apartments?
It was supposed to be and never did.
Oh, they renovated it. I've been inside it.
But the people that did that are no longer there. It's
It was
different.
finished.
But
when I
it's
saw it.
different people that went in there and are doing stuff. They put a new roof on, and it's still not rented because there's a lady that was, she's in Alston Grove, and she goes there all the time and questions the workers. They won't tell her anything.
Goodness.
Jan Smith, she tries to find out, and they won't tell her.
I know the architect who was involved.
I wonder if he still is.
Last thing they did was remove the parking lot, right, put grass.
They already did, and it's already growing.
Yeah, it's
And I don't understand why they would do that, but they
So
did.
that people next door can't park out.
I think you're exactly right, Dwayne. I think you're right.
I was by it one day last summer, and I asked if I stopped and talked to the guys, and then this architect came out, and I'd done business with him before, so they invited me in, and it was practically done. It's lovely inside.
Good. Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, good.
And they've done a nice job of preserving what
Have
was
you
there.
ever been in it yet?
Mhm.
Okay, but not lately.
Probably not in the last 3 months.
Yeah. Since our roof ordeal.
Yes, correct.
That was a fiasco. Okay. Yeah, so they have not rented out, and like I said, Jan kind of tells us, so.
Oh, good, that's what I said.
And I understand on the corner of, what would that be? 8th and Cedar, maybe, where Mark, I forgot his name, is renovating a house. I understand Jan went over there on Sunday, and it's beautiful inside, she said.
The other end of this, right across from the other end of this building. right?
Yes, yes. And, well, he does a beautiful job anyway. And she said it's beautiful. And he's gonna fix the balcony more upstairs and stuff, so. That'll be a nice asset to the
That's
area.
huge, because that was a mess, inside
Yes.
and out. Yeah.
It's, if you're interested in renting it, one level's $1,500 a month and the other $1,600.
Holy cow.
Depends on if you get the basement or you get the top floor.
They only did 2 apartments in the whole building?
Mm-hmm.
Alright.
And the basement is gonna be finished, yes. But I guess it's lovely, so. In case you wanna move to a different location. I have to tease him, you know that, right?
Yeah. But they put the garden on top of it, didn't they? Or that was one of their plans?
They're
was to-
talking about it, but I think they are going to do something like that, so.
Yeah. I double my rent for that.
I will let him know your name. It'll be very nice, I know it will. Okay, any other old business that needs to come before us except all these things that we've talked about? I know I went to the bank and talked to the lady about the program that, and she said that they've had 2 people come in, which is good, and it's a start. You know, they can't share. She just said 2 people came in and are very excited about it, so that was a good thing. And I guess that's the only other thing that I've done. Did anybody get to go to the
Yeah,
breakfast?
Yeah, me and Greg went. And I think I printed off quite a few maps, and by the time I came back, they were all gone. So,
Good, good.
So someone has them.
Was there any other questions or? Did you speak?
No, but I think that's definitely a concept to follow up on, because there's going to be times where there's like realtors talking about realtor things.
So yeah, there was realtors from Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. So a lot of them were more of the big time than the smaller guys, but that information was there.
Well, that's good. At least they've got some information to go by, which hopefully they'll pass it on to people.
Yeah.
We're talking about a lot of homeowners that are buying in this area don't know there's.
You're right, that's always been a problem.
And right, so
Yeah.
these 2 went to the breakfast and passed out, which is good. No, passed out information.
That sounds better.
That's true. Yeah, because one of the 627 Pine, when I talked with the lady, she says, I've owned this house for 12 years. I didn't know I was in the historic district.
See,
Okay.
so many people don't.
And there's so many signs around too. that say-
But they don't ask what it means,
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
which is a shame, but I guess if you don't know, then you don't get in trouble.
You still get in trouble.
Well, but it takes a little longer. 12 years it took her.
Yeah, I did.
So, yeah. Well, that's good. Did you said the meeting tonight is for the landlord?
Yes, landlord.
Was there a lot of people?
Yes, there was probably 30 to 40 landlords at least that were there to.
They talked a little bit on the Channel 22 news. I was told this by my neighbor about some of the restrictions, and there's going to be lots of people complaining.
Miss Joyce, you're really informed, aren't you? You have all these.
I've got all these people telling me.
Yeah.
I like it. I don't even have to leave. But yeah, I'm thinking, wouldn't you ask the landlords first before you had a public meeting? I don't know. That's just me, I guess. But then I'm thinking, the landlords that need to be there wouldn't be there anyway, and they aren't going to take care of their houses, so, which is a shame. And I'll get off my soapbox, and we'll go on to new business. And we talked about our preservation plan. And do you have any more you want to run on?
I do, if we can connect this. I've been trying to get this up. So Larry was able to view, and Kyle did as well, the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions. I think I sent information out to everybody about that you could view that. If you're a member, you can view for free. Otherwise it was, I don't know, $10, 15, something like that. But they discussed developing a preservation plan. And it's really a good idea. Certainly, it's very involved. There's a lot to it. It's not necessarily cheap. But in talking with Larry a little after that, he was very interested, and we thought maybe it would be a good idea to share some of that with you. There were so many questions that came into that first session. It was presented as a webinar, that they actually had a second session. Were you able to view that?
I didn't.
You did.
I have the
Did you see
recording,
that?
right?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. So I have that too, but I went back, and if you sign up for any of them, they'll send you a copy afterwards. So I've got one here. Now it's super long. It's an hour and 45 minutes. We're not going to listen to all of that, but I have it playing at the moment, and we're getting pretty close to the starting point that'll really tell you a little bit more about what a preservation plan is. So hopefully I'm close to where we need to be if we can.
Yeah, I don't know how to.
Let's see if we can play with it in a minute. If not, I'll just play it on my computer and you can listen to it. I have slides for it that I could show you that, but I think I have this video where they're talking, which is infinitely better.
There's a way to do it.
Actually, it would just be easier just to take the cord, plug it in there like that.
Okay.
And actually, it's long enough, I think you can go back to your seat.
All right.
Up there.
The 90-year-old woman I look up every Sunday thinks you're wonderful.
Do I know her?
That's a nice
Oh,
one.
She lives on 8th Street,
Okay, so maybe.
right next door to this house. You were at a meeting that Dan took her to. She said, oh, I just love
Oh, goodness, you work for it, because a lot of new computers don't.
Thank you.
They have an extra little extension that has different ports in it.
Great, okay. We'll give it not that much volume. Wow, that would have just blown us away. Okay.
Too often in preservation, we're reactive.
So now you're gonna have to turn it
To
up.
the buildings that threaten the community that's changing, the demolition that just occurred. And planning really helps us to be more proactive, to think and stop and think about where we're at now, where do we want to go, and how are we going to get there. So why prepare a preservation plan? It's an opportunity to reflect on our past efforts, where the program has come from, how it's evolved over time. Often the kind of, to reflect, sometimes you may or may not have that institutional memory. So it gives you a chance to dig into and really think, wait, why do we do things the way we do? How do we get here? Is there a way that we could be doing things differently in the future?
Yeah, it's better.
It's a chance to identify your community assets. What resources have you designated, but also what's eligible that maybe should be designated, or what do you not know about? What should be surveyed and identified? To collect community input, to see what's important to your community, see what your community thinks about where you're at now and where you should go in the future. To evaluate your preservation policies, see what's working and what isn't. To recognize challenges and opportunities and threats. Is it funding? Is it development? Is it a lack of development? What are the opportunities? Where could you partner? Where could you find funds? And what are some of your threats? Is it climate change? Is it demolition? It's going to be different for every community. to discuss these questions, and then to really establish preservation as a key part of city planning. From the name, planning, planners, as much as it shouldn't be the case, a plan can help your preservation program be taken more seriously. When you're involved in the city planning effort, when you have a plan and a set of goals and priorities that you can refer to, it can really help you when you're trying to get city funding, when you're going to city council. If you can say, we need this because we did a community process, we prepared a plan, and this is our established priority. So it can be a helpful tool that way as well. And then your plan helps you to launch a shared vision of where you want preservation in your community to go. So there's a lot of different types of preservation planning. So you can do preservation planning as part of a city or county comprehensive plan. It can be a standalone plan that's for a neighborhood, a municipality, a state preservation plan. Or it can be a plan that's related to a specific topic. It could be a plan for disaster management, a plan for survey, a plan for specific topic, strategic engagement. So comprehensive planning. So comprehensive planning, commonly referred to as comp plans, establish how and where a community wants to develop, what it wants to improve, and what to protect. Comp plans provide guidance for decision makers and serve as a legal basis for land use regulations. So here on the screen you see kind of a typical kind of table of contents for a comp plan. So you can see in this particular comp plan they do have a separate chapter that is just kind of heritage conservation. So it may be that that's how you've been involved with preservation planning in the past, is working on a chapter of your comp plan. But I want to kind of emphasize to everyone today, it's really key that you look for ways to be involved throughout the comprehensive planning process, that it's not just your chapter. Because look at these topics: community identity. Clearly that involves preservation. Land use, that also can be related to preservation. Urban design definitely can relate to preservation. Economic development, also key preservation topic there. Housing, preservation should also be part of that discussion. Also potentially parks. And then also resiliency and sustainability. Clearly preservation should be part of that topic as well. So you want to make sure that preservation has a role at the table in the group doing your comp plan, and that you can get preservation topics integrated throughout the comp plan. But then you also, in addition to a comp plan, may want to do your own standalone preservation plan. So some of the common things that a preservation plan asks: what should be preserved? What are the strengths and weaknesses of your program? What concerns and threats are you facing? Are there frustrations with the preservation process? What should the city's priorities be? And what are the resources needed? And one of the key things is that your preservation plan should ask those questions to a lot of different people and see where you get different responses. What does staff have to say about those? What does city council say? What do various communities say? What do developers say? What do other city organizations say? So get that broad perspective and see where there's shared opinions and differences of opinion. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to have some clips from various preservation plans that I'm using as illustrations. All of these plans are available in the Handouts tab where you look at webinar resources, and all of us have included links to various resources so you can find these full plans there. But just as an example of this, I have a plan from El Dorado, Arkansas. This is what they, through their community engagement, had people say what places were significant to them. And so this is an illustration of places that were identified as meaning further survey, documentation, and preservation in their planning outreach. So yeah, so that community input is key, finding out what are the places and people that are important to the community. And there's obviously a variety of ways you can do this, through open houses, through online surveys, through attending events. The photo there is of some of our City of Denver staff this past weekend as we staffed a booth at our local powwow and discovered the amazing power of prize wheels to bring people over to talk to you. We pretty much had non-stop people at our booth for 3 days because everyone wanted to come spin our prize wheel. So finding out those keys for local engagement in your community. So, kind of brief, what is commonly included in a plan? So if you haven't done a plan before, or you're thinking about doing a plan, here's what's typically involved. So obviously there can be a lot of variation from community to community, and you can adapt a plan to what works best for you. So oftentimes communities will start with some background. How did you get to where you are now? Talking about the historic development of your city and key points on your timeline. What was the development both of your city as well as the development of your preservation program? And
She's tired.
I think she is. See if it'll work. Sometimes just getting out of there makes it better. I don't know. I feel like I'm back on dial-up days. Things would freeze. Well,
There's almost.
so,
There you go.
kind of brief, what is commonly included in a plan? So if you haven't done a plan before, or you're thinking about doing a plan, here's what's typically involved. So obviously there can be a lot of variation from community to community, and you can adapt a plan to what works best for you. So oftentimes community will start with some background. How did you get to where you are now? So talking about the historic development of your city and key points on your timeline. What was the development both of your city as well as the development of your preservation program and planning initiatives. This is an example from Louisville, Colorado. Then looking at where you are now with your historic resources. So what's currently designated, what might be eligible for designation, and what are some other important resources. So this example from the Cedar Rapids, Iowa Preservation Plan. On the left, you see they mapped out all the buildings by age, so you can kind of see how the town developed. And then on the right, you see where they're at with survey. What is currently designated, what has been surveyed, and what is prioritized for future survey. And a lot of the role of a preservation plan is to assess your program. How's it working? Are your tools effective? So what about your ordinance? Do you need any ordinance updates? Have looked through, is there outdated language in your ordinance? Some of it may just be simple things that can make your life easier. We recently did an ordinance update in Denver, and part of it was just cleaning up old language that said, we had to send certified letters in all these different occasions. And now we send emails, and it's much easier. Working on your design guidelines. How are your design guidelines working? Or do you need design guidelines? Demolition review. Do you do it? Do you want to do it? And incentives. What incentives do you have, and what incentives might you like to develop? Then looking at your administration. So are people aware of the commission and its role? How's the relationship between staff and the commission? Do you have sufficient staff? And how do you coordinate with other agencies, and who are your partners? So this is an example from Washington, D.C. plan, looking at their board, their office staff, and who their partners are. Then assessing your survey and designation. So have you surveyed everything in your community? What needs to be surveyed? What's designated? And do your designations represent the full range of your community's history? Are the communities that aren't represented, are resource types that aren't represented in your designations, things that you should prioritize? Are there certain resources that you should focus on? So this is another example from the DC plan. tell I'm a really big fan of the DC plan, where they have great visuals showing, what types of buildings are represented in their landmarks and what periods, so what age they're from, what different periods of development are represented in their landmarks. And then as you assess your program, think about education and advocacy. So do you have educational opportunities for your commission, your staff, the community? Is information easily accessible about your program? And are there partnership opportunities that you could further develop? And then once you've done all that reflecting, think about establishing your vision. So think about what preservation is now, and then ask people, what do they want preservation to be in the future? So this is an example from the Denton, Texas plan. So the community identified that currently preservation is important and hopeful, but it's also lacking and inconsistent, and in the future they want it to be essential and innovative and forward-thinking and an economic catalyst, and part of what makes the community unique. And key is to make sure the community feels heard in your plan, to make sure it's clear that you've gotten impact, you've gotten the input and that it's made an impact on the plan. So an example from the DC plan where they laid out in their plan, this is what we heard. So quotes from people in the community and really a good analysis, like these are the challenges, this is what people told us, this is what we're going to work towards solving. And then once you've done all that, it's time to develop your goals and your actions. So goals and how you're going to achieve them. Common goals often include things like broadening the message, getting out to more communities, getting out to diverse communities, making preservation more equitable, aligning more with sustainability and affordable housing efforts, streamlining administration, expanding survey and designation, more outreach, education, and more incentives. So you're going to want to develop goals and then have clear actions for how you're going to achieve those goals. And then key to establish priorities and responsibilities. So when you're thinking about establishing priorities, it's not just about what is most important. It's really kind of strategizing based on your resources, your timing, and what can get done effectively. So think about things like what can be completed for minimal cost. So maybe those are things you can get done first. Also, what will benefit the most people? What can be completed easily? So what's an easy thing that you could get done and mark off the list and feel successful? And what's really vital for preventing the imminent loss of historic character? So this is an example from Plano's plan, which does a great job of laying out priorities and who is responsible. And Bhavesh will be talking more about this a little bit later. So then finally, you just want to make your plan a success. So some ways to do that. Invest in the process, not just the product. While it can be helpful to have a plan document, preservation plan is really about the planning process. It's bringing everyone together to reflect, think about where you're at, how you got there, and where you want to go in the future. And that's really the valuable part. You want to engage the community in that. You want to dream big, but start small. So think of those easy things you could get done the first year to put on, on your goals and activities list. So you don't want to think so big. It's great to have those big visions, but you want to be reasonable and practical when you think about what you can actually achieve to make sure, that it just doesn't become a source of frustration, that we had this great plan and then it was impossible to achieve and now no one wants to look at it because it just makes them feel bad. So make sure that it can be a positive thing. Helpful to do that is to make sure you have responsibilities identified and you periodically reevaluate. There may be unexpected things come up that make you adjust your timelines and, see flexibility to that. So, thank you, that's our brief kind of intro now, and now I am going to turn it over to our panelists.
They go on and talk to other preservation commissions and planning people, so it's very interesting, but it's very long. So I think you kind of got a little bit of an overview of what a plan is. It does definitely take some time. There's a lot of community meetings involved. And so in the second session, I made a few notes off of that, just things they said. They talked about the community meetings, you know, that it's most successful if you have many of those. So you're getting a very diverse audience. And you want to go where the people are and, you know, speak their language and try to make it simple and understandable. But basically just asking people what matters to you, you know, whether it's buildings or areas that tell the story or what it is, and getting that input and then looking at all those from all those different people, pulling that together. And like she said in there earlier, seeing where the similarities are or the differences and helping to direct where should we be going with preservation? Because otherwise we're just kind of drifting
Are you
along.
suggesting this idea to expand historic preservation in this city, or just to go back over the process with the people who are currently in the historic district?
I think a little bit of both, honestly. You know, to have a vision of some things we want to do, whether it's creating new historic districts or, you know, what that might be. But it's also looking at the processes we have now. You know, is our ordinance good? And we just did our guidelines, but I don't think many people are familiar with those that actually live in the districts, because we've never really had an official rollout of them, and we've had them almost a year. So that's something we really need to do. So some of these communities had huge, like they'd have 20 or 30 meetings, which is crazy, but we're talking some big towns too, you know. Denver, Madison, Wisconsin, some of those, Plano, Texas. So it was a little bit different, but they figured out where to find people. They went like to local festivals or, you know, set up a booth at some event, and they were able to get a lot of people that way. And then implementation is kind of like what she said. They were saying that they tried to do a few things off their plan every year so that they were always moving ahead, whether that was, you know, tweaking guidelines or ordinance, or whether it was creating a new district, but try to always be moving ahead. Usually you get a professional in to help you through this process, and then they talked about ways that that could be funded. A lot of these communities in here are certified local governments, and so there's grants available to them, and I'm sorry, but you're not one of those, so those aren't available here, but there are other ways to fund that. You know, often community foundations are interested in giving some money, you know, local organizations, and also the Historic Preservation Education Grant that we in Indiana Humanities sponsor every year. I actually today talked with our person in the Indy office to see if this is the kind of thing that could apply for, and she said yes, this would be. So I think there's ways to fund it, but it's...
So would you suggest we find those ways first, or we should? We did one community walkthrough on 8th Street.
Which was a good start.
Which was,
that was,
it was rainy
3
and
or 4
we did
years
it.
ago, and it was like 40 degrees.
Yes.
Kyle, how many people, how many addresses are there in our historic preservation district?
I don't know.
Well, the reason I'm asking the question is, I don't think it would be a monetary burden to take the guidelines that we have, give one to each household.
I think that's a good idea.
How are you going to get them to each household?
Deliver them through the mail.
Where are you going to get the money for that mail? That we have no.
We don't have a budget.
We have no budget. We never have had a budget.
150 pages, more or less.
Yeah, and you're talking 150 pages to each home.
Well, if the entire book wasn't given to people, if a brochure of some kind could be designed that would, first of all, be notifying people, did you know you're in this district?
That's the
And
biggest
there are certain guidelines, and perhaps list some of the important things that people would need to know, and let them know where they can look at more information.
Yeah.
This is probably online.
Just send a postcard out to begin with, you know?
Yes, yes,
Exactly. Yeah, that's
yes.
affordable. Yeah.
I think because people don't pay attention, it really might be important that it come in an envelope that it says it's from the city.
Right.
So that it would be stronger, but it's something that's very non-threatening and colorful or whatever. But if the city is sincere in its interest in the historic district, they might have to decide that there would be some funds for something that low tech or that inexpensive to go out.
Well, Elston Grove, when they meet, have you gone to their meeting?
I've not.
Is there quite a few people that come?
There weren't very many
Yeah,
that
I
time.
would say that the last one I went to had about 5 people.
That's what I was afraid of.
I maybe had 8, maybe. So
Okay.
it wasn't.
Because I'm wondering, is that someplace we could start with just, and the reason I'm bringing that up because the house on, is it 8th and Pine? Or 9th and Pine? They had the fire, they were 2 people, they were really upset about what's gonna go on and happen in there, and I know the one lady in her email mentioned going to the Elston Grove meeting. Do you know when they meet? I did email her, but I have not heard back from her. Do you know it all, Greg?
I think oh my gosh, all of time is merging, and I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks
Is
ago.
it in the
all
evening
feels
or
like
is
the
it
same
during
time.
the day?
In the evening, in this room, yeah.
It's in this room? Oh, okay, well,
It's
we
like
probably
6
could.
o'clock.
What time?
6, I believe, when they have.
I think you were talking about it in our last meeting, Greg. So it must have been just before that.
It was so April 10th.
April 10th,
So
it's
that
2
would be
weeks.
the second Monday.
second Monday, so it's 2 weeks ago from today.
And you know what? I think they usually do them on Tuesdays, and then they had to do it special that day because everybody wanted to go to the Buildings and Works because that one law office or whatever that's going in is just kind of a headache.
And that's, yeah, one of the issues that,
So second Tuesdays, yeah. And I make a point of going to those, and I'm hoping to continue to feel that need to continue to go to those.
so what's that date gonna be in May?
So in May, that would be presumably the 9th.
Is
Okay,
it a
so-
Community association?
I was there in 2021.
Okay.
So it's been a while.
Right when COVID struck and everything. yeah.
Right. And at that time, we didn't have our new guidelines. We were talking about the changes that were gonna come, but. I don't
That's what
know
I'm
anything.
wondering, can the office print off guidelines for the historic district?
How many, how many sets are we talking?
Well, I don't mean,
I think if it's available online, we should just make sure that everybody gets like a card or something.
but a lot of people, older people that live in that neighborhood have said to me, I don't have a computer. I don't know how to get on the computer. I said, you can go to the library and they have people there that will help you. Well, I don't go to the library. No matter what you said, Larry,
Yeah, okay.
they're gonna find a reason why they can't.
Some people might not read the whole thing either, so.
Well, right.
It's a huge expense and maybe just a smaller summary.
But I'm just wondering
Yeah,
if you
if it
just
was like
did
the
something
big
like
postcard.
this, or something simple. This is the one from Landmark, but, just telling them what it is. That's basically, I don't know if everyone can remember keeping this or not, but it just says what is a historian.
Yeah.
Just something simple
So if
to
we were-
start.
Gonna apply for like the grant that Deb mentioned. That's $3,000, as much as $3,000. That's enough to get a graphic designer, and then mailers are cheap. If we're just sending out a postcard, less than $1 a person.
Yeah.
Post
Well,
office
yeah,
has
because-
one too that will pinpoint a certain area of town and get the get a like a hard copy folded in half, I believe it is, and they'll send that to every address in that area.
Cool. That would work. That's affordable too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I
And it's
think,
at a discounted rate also,
Cool.
yes, if you get a mass mailing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is it just addressed to resident
resident,
at
yeah.
each and then all the
Yeah.
addresses?
See, and that's why we had talked about putting it in the water bill, which is fine, but there's a lot of homes in Elston Grove that are rentals.
Yeah.
So that goes to the homeowner who could care less because he doesn't live there. And a lot of them don't even live in Indiana. So doing that maybe is good and bad, but you're not going to touch the people probably that we need to touch that are going looking. I think the real estate one that you guys went to and passed out, that information was a big start. And I think if any of us can go to the Elston Grove meeting in 2 weeks, that would be another nice start. And maybe Kyle, I can get with you and we can just get something kind of basic. I know you have this too, but I keep pointing to it. Just something basic. Doesn't even have to be a full page that we could print and pass out at that meeting. Because I know, especially the two ladies that are on all the time, live somewhere in this area. And they're very interested in what's going on in the different homes and who owns those homes. Is it somebody from here or is it somebody from out of state that's looking just to make money? So I think we've got two issues going. One, we need to let the people that own these properties, that live in them, if you're going to do stuff, this is something that just basic, like Gigi said. We don't have to give them everything at one time, but it's a start. And then from that, if everybody can start thinking about, like Dwayne just said, some kind of, well, it wouldn't have to be much bigger than this, and then you fold it in half, that we could give or send out, because if we could get a city that can do mass mailings, can't they?
But not that color.
Hey, you'd know you got it. You know you got it.
Yeah, that's true.
Could you find
It
that?
won't stay on the refrigerator, but you know you have it.
That's right. You wouldn't lose it real easy. I just think we have to, we've been talking about it now, and like Deb said, that there was, I think it was Roger and me and you that ended up, and it started raining. We knew nobody else was going to come, but we went and with umbrellas, and there was a couple, we just took 8th Street and went. And I was quite surprised on some of the houses, what was going on, that you really don't know if you're just driving by in your car. But when you're out walking it, and maybe we should do that again, choose another street. And that would be part of our meeting. We do our business, and then whoever can, we would walk. And she had a lot of good information on a lot of the homes, and Roger knew a lot of them from his line of work. So it was interesting, and maybe a bigger group isn't going to be good, but I just think we're all interested or we wouldn't be here. And I know that Dwayne lives, you could run right into his house if you come off Lafayette.
Right into it. Don't do it.
He'd be right in his front door, but don't touch his wife's beautiful flowers. They're always so pretty. But I really think we need to do that. So if Kyle, if you can check that, and anyone who can come to the, I'll try to remember to send out a little reminder. If we can come, and if there's only 5 people, all right, there's 5 people. But that's 5 people that we can say we did talk to, and if you have any issues, this is where you come to express that to us.
Do you have a full copy of the guidelines?
Well, the one that she printed off for us, yeah.
Because you might at least bring your copy with.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you were there, because people might, if they ask questions, you could show them the entire thing.
What I did was I just emailed the section to Reprographic Arts, and they printed it for me, and even spiral bound it.
Now, what is that, this?
It's the guidelines.
And they printed it off for you? Pretty reasonable? They're pretty good.
Yeah, I
there.
think it was. I don't remember exactly, but it's better than trying to print it off yourself at home. Because I mean, it was double-sided and color, and
Yes.
I mean, it's like a book.
Well, they do
So-
a nice job there.
Yeah, you found is good.
Yeah, they are very good.
I'm
Well,
just
I
gonna
wonder
show you
if
this quick, I don't know if you can see it, but LaPorte just finished this. made themselves a trifold brochure that they're gonna pass out. They have a small budget, so that does make it a little different. One of the commission members went on Canva and did this themselves in an evening, so not a huge design issue and quite reasonable. It has 6 reasons why historic preservation is good for our community, like lower foreclosure rates, neighborhood stability, and all that. And then it has links as well, talks a little bit about the commission themselves, where you can go to get COA applications, where you can go to find the guidelines, because they have the same ones you do. All that sort of thing is all in there. It's just double-sided, trifold. And so what they're planning to do, and again, they have way less designated properties and a little budget, but they're gonna write a little letter to each person, put this inside, and mail those out, so everybody knows.
Do you know how they got their budget?
As long as I've been, they've had a budget. It's a line item in the city budget, so.
There you go.
Have we ever thought of maybe requesting a budget?
We used to have a budget. The very first year I ever was on, and I don't know if JJ remembers, we did have a budget. It wasn't much, but we had a budget.
Right.
And it was mainly for mailings.
How does LaPorte achieve things like they have at the corner of the main drag through town and 4th Highway 4? That southeast corner is a park. About the size, in fact, that's a little bit smaller than what we have, where we demoed a couple buildings, and there's going to be activities there 260 days a year. They actually have one there, and they've had it for a number of years. Painted buildings behind them, chairs and tables and.
Yeah, that park is gorgeous, yeah.
Oh.
And then the splash pad there is really good and effective.
It is.
And,
Yeah.
It really is, and that's just something that they really value. They're bringing in Notre Dame to do a charrette and give them some more vision for the town. I just met with them on my way over
They
here
get a
to
lot of
talk about it,
freebies,
so.
rather.
Hmm?
They get a lot
that's
of
part of it.
freebies.
From who?
Notre Dame is their biggest one. I mean, biggest. And like she just said, they get a lot of free advice
Well, in
and
this case, they're paying for it, but.
there
No,
you go.
I mean, you do get a lot of information from a charrette for what you spend for it, I think, so. I think that's really good, and yeah, it doesn't take a lot of money. They also allow their commission to do some activities that raise money, so I don't know if
Going
that's
back
allowed here or
to
not,
your
but
question,
that could be helpful.
you tell me why the globes still are not back on the lights.
I don't know.
Can you tell me why?
I cannot.
I know where the globes are, and they've been preserved by that electrician because he did not have the heart to break them. So he saved them all thinking they were going to go back on, and the
Wish I knew.
the council didn't want to talk about it. I mean, we tried several times. Yes.
So if we put together a list of things, that, like small steps that we would like to achieve to reach this greater goal of the plan, can't we just approach the city council and say, this is how much money we would like to do these 5 things?
Yes, we can. And hopefully they would say yes, but be prepared is all I can tell you.
Well, we
Because
gotta make the step, I
that's
think.
right. You're exactly right.
I would suggest going before them and giving a little presentation and say, these are things that we've been doing, note some positive things that you've done in the last few years. This is who we are, this is what we do, and this is what we would like to do, so they really understand what you're doing.
When Skylar and I went, it was right before COVID, to the council. They were having a planning meeting at Krieger Memorial Park, I still call it. I won't mention any names, but very negative about historic preservation. Very negative. And I was shocked. Because it was a pretty big official that just was like, and Skylar really, really tried to get we were lucky to get enough budget to have historic preservation be with us every month and to guide us, because they weren't even going to do that. And Skylar said, if we're going to have to spend the night, we're spending the night, but we're not leaving here till they give us that budget. And they did, which was good. But it was very hard. And I don't understand it, but
Is that person still on the council?
yes.
Don't you think that almost anything we do, like the idea of reworking the plan or any kinds of things that go on, it should be done with the help and support of the planning department, because they really need to be involved with things. And I even think of things like empty lots, that site over at Pine and I forget where it is, Fourth or whatever, where they built some infrastructure and then never built whatever was supposed to be done. I never thought about at the time that was being talked about, but wouldn't we want to say that new construction in the historic district needs to meet certain standards?
Right.
And we don't know if they would have been enforcing that with whatever was planned there or anywhere else for that matter. And if it's going to be effective, they have to be very involved as well.
No, I agree.
One of the things that probably would help in our argument would be, like, do we have any kind of an inventory? Like some kind of a visual representation of every property, what the house looks like, the ones, especially the ones that are successes versus the ones that need help. And if that, I mean, we could take that as a book and say, look, this is all the stuff, the great stuff that, you know, like Deb said, this is the stuff that we've helped save over the years, but these are all the ones that are still struggling. And we need to put this all together in one comprehensive plan and ask for the funding for the plan, which is going to involve hiring the consultant, you know, to help guide us through that process.
You know, there is a plan online which the Department of Planning did a couple of years ago, and I got the link to it and went through it, but I never did get to the end of it. It's really long. But it would be worth looking at something like that to determine whether or not they even address the historic district. Okay.
It's a section, it's a small section.
Well, but that's really important for, but now, having said what I've said, I probably need to go back in and look and just see what they would say about how they would deal with anybody planning to build new construction in that area. Because that plan, they'd have to make sure it passes before this board, and if there's something that's as big as a PUD, they might not think about sending it here.
Well, see, the South Shore Station, they came. We had
that's true.
we had several meetings on Zoom because of COVID there for a while too. But they did do that, and they have changed a couple things that we did not like what they were doing, and I know it still is not going to be exactly like we want, but
unfortunately that process proved that we don't have the authority that we would like to have, because
we don't have the backup.
Well, that too, yeah.
You don't care about the authority if you at least had the backup.
Yeah, but if we had the authority to say no to the building, and our arms were twisted pretty hard to approve that.
Yeah. And I also was told that quite a few of the apartments that are going to be built there are already online to be rented. Already online, got my name down, got my information. I want one when they're built.
Well, I take that with as much surety as I did with the 260 days of event every year continually at the park where they tore those two buildings down on the corner. And then they built the infrastructure close to $1 million across this, where the old Memorial Hospital used to be.
They didn't build anything where the old...
No, there's all the infrastructure's in.
Oh, well, that gentleman, anyway, he had no money after it was all said and done, and he had to back out.
Yeah.
He couldn't get
I
funds.
was involved a little bit with that one, so I know.
Well, he was married to the man who had the money, and his wife divorced him, so he had no money.
Interesting.
Yeah, same with the ice creams thing, that was the same thing there. Same people. The father-in-law had the money, the son-in-law wanted it, divorce, that was,
Ice cream, I'm not remembering that one.
oh yeah, the one where you come across from 80s, what used to be an ice cream. Yeah, anyway, been a perfect place for the
Oh,
park
yeah.
department. Yeah, but anyway, same thing.
Okay,
It was all gone through and all that, and then how stupid can you be? But
so what's
anyway.
gonna happen with the You Are Beautiful site? Same
Well,
thing?
that's supposed to be, I don't know.
Once again, hopefully the planning department has some requirements for people who are saying that they're developing to show actual funds and in a bank or, whatever kind of due diligence would have to take place to get the city to support them for any of those.
Kind of like the residents of Michigan City have to do if they want to do something.
And I don't know if a great big blockbuster building right there, is that the proper place for it or not? Just like when they cut the road off and put the library in.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's just, anybody that's involved in art or architecture understands that kind of thing.
Or city planning,
Oh, it's terrible.
that's basic planning, yes, yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm sorry Amy
Very
isn't here
basic.
tonight, but she, and I can understand that. The people who are wanting that see nothing wrong with it being two-way street now, so that you back into your parking place. Amy's point is, how angry is that person going to be behind you that's going to let you back into that parking place when they're right in front of it? And she's right, they're not.
It'll be a growing
It's
curve.
going to, it will be.
Growing curve.
So, most of the people who have properties on Franklin are hoping it just stays the way it is. So, and look what we went through with that. We had Franklin Square, you couldn't even go down Franklin, how many years it took for that to change. So, I agree. I think we need something simple, and could you maybe send that to us so we could all kind of look at it and
I've got maybe a half a dozen different ones from other towns as well. I can just send you a bunch to look
Oh,
through.
great, yeah.
So,
that would be great, and then we can maybe compose something like Larry's just suggested, and hopefully by our next meeting, maybe have something in place that we can.
But we have a way to determine who the owners of the properties are, so that I like your idea, Dwayne, that just having the post office disseminate them as to residents, but we might not get the owners if we do that. And if we actually mailed them to a person who's listed, I suppose it has to be on the tax bill or something.
It's on the tax bill as well as Beacon Snyder Corp., which is kind of the city as well as the county mapping. It lists who, or the entity who owns the property and an address that is tied to it.
They
Is it on
send them to all the
Beacon?
places, but
yeah, it's on Beacon. Yeah, whoever the tax bill gets sent
Yeah.
to, which obviously is the owner, yeah.
yeah.
I think the
So,
idea
that's
of
in
the
there.
trifold that you showed us from Laporte, I think you can get a lot of information in that, and then when it's folded, it fits inside a nice business size envelope.
Right.
And if it had the city of Michigan City's,
Address.
address on there,
Yeah,
I think it would get somebody's attention that this is something to look at.
Yeah, I
Right.
think
But it
so.
should definitely go to the property owners, not the people renting.
Right.
Right.
And it would be another nice thing for realtors
Yeah.
to give out to when they're selling a home.
oh, yeah. That's what Laporte's gonna do with some of theirs, actually, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Deb, when we were watching that thing, not today, but I watched the whole thing, and when they had all these other preservationists on from all these different towns around the country, they all were speaking about how important it was and how the city benefited.
Right.
So I think if we could just compile, I'll go back through and I'll watch it again and I'll compile all the pluses for why we need to do this.
Yeah.
And that should be part of the brochure too.
It should.
And when we go to the city council, we should, these are like our talk points, right? This is what we need to
Why
do.
you need to do this is, that's why we don't have the Spalding Hotel anymore. because we didn't have anything in place for that. That great structure torn down. It's just, that's a long time ago, but still.
It was on the corner of 7th and Franklin.
Oh, goodness.
There's water in the basement up to your knees, but it was a nice building.
Well, there was that nice old building over by the outlet mall that got torn down too. That would
Barker, yes.
But a very cool building to preserve. I never understood why they tore it down because it's just a vacant lot now. And it has been for
Ever since they tore it down. Yeah,
20 years.
yeah. I don't know either.
So
It's definitely something that I would want to stick with when we're looking at doing anything with this, is knowing our success stories.
Yes.
Because if we start sending things out, people are going to read that as like, oh, what are they trying to start now? But if we started with success stories and drill that in, I think that's an important thing to do.
Is there some
Otherwise,
way
people
you
are going to try to
can,
turn around and cancel us or something.
is there a historic timeline for this preservation committee? Like when it started, what how many years, it's what we've been doing over the years, anything
I
like that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know, do you know, Kyle?
Mm-mm.
Maybe,
I mean, there would have to be some research.
maybe Skylar would know.
Maybe
You want me to call him?
if you want.
Because I think we need to explain the history too, that we're not just this pop-up thing that's
Right.
here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah, whenever the historic district was designated, it would be good to.
I mean, if you look at the date of your ordinance, that should give us an idea of when the commission was formed. But that predates us being here, so I don't have records back that far, but I do have a copy of your ordinance, so I could probably find that actually pretty fast.
Probably sometime in the 80s. That's usually when a lot of historic
Most of them
districts.
are, I think we have one that is being created in this century. So,
A question for Kyle. Is your department still looking for staff to be like enforcement officers, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's, to me, is a big problem. It's just enforcement. And I mean, I just drive by a couple of these properties around here where people have literally piled trash in their yards. We have to do something about that.
Yes.
You don't have to have money. You can be dirt poor, but that doesn't give you the right to pile trash in your yard.
Right.
You can still keep the grass cut. You may not be able to afford to paint your house, but you gotta keep the property looking neat and tidy.
I thought the city did come by and call and would pick up.
Well,
If they call.
the refuge department, if you guys see anyone who has trash in their front, have them call the refuge
Or around
department.
the backyard too.
Yeah, that's a housekeeping thing, but I was thinking you meant just like when people pile stuff at the roadside to have it picked up. Because it's not always done very quickly.
Correct, yeah.
Well, they don't listen. First of all, they don't listen, or it's on the radio, it's in the paper, it's posted lots of places when they're gonna do. I mean, this week it's in my neighborhood where they're doing any kind of, as long as you separate it and it's in front of your house, not in your back, they will pick it up. But a lot of people's attitude is, well, I shouldn't have to call them. Well, they don't know that you're cleaning out and that you need stuff picked up.
The properties I'm talking about are not people in the process of doing anything.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
They just have turned their property into junkyards, and they somehow they feel that is okay.
So Kyle, would you be the one, not you, but would your department be the one that would be called to enforce that? Or would it be inspection?
For trash and stuff? So, I mean, as long as it's not construction material, because if it's construction material, I mean, if it's like taking up the entire front yard, in terms of on like city right of way, that's the refuge department. So if there is, windows and just plaster, like kind of like if you guys ever saw the pile that was in front of 9th and Pine, that took up the entire street. That's not the inspection department, that's the refuge department. But when it comes to like people's yards that there's like tires and stuff, that's the inspection department. So it's just when it becomes, a mass of.
So you just need to call inspection and report where you've seen this.
Correct.
Okay.
And then if it's, construction material, then have it forwarded to the refuge department so then they can deal with it because that's.
But stopping
Them to
and
deal
telling people that is, you might as well just talk to the wall because they're not gonna do it.
Correct.
So is it in your budget, I don't know, maybe you don't know, to hire more people, more enforcement officers?
They're trying
We're
to,
trying, it's.
Okay, so it is in the budget, you just can't find the people?
right,
Correct. I mean, for the 36 or 37,000 people in the city, we have 3 inspectors.
Mhm.
So if you do the math, roughly 11,000 people, per inspector, right, makes it very difficult to.
well, Larry, if you have a job, did you know you have to show up for it every day? And you're expected to work all day?
And drug-free too.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Just so you know,
That's why you're retired.
1987 is when the commission was, when the ordinance was,
When is it?
1987 was when the ordinance went through creating this commission. And the oldest guidelines I have on record are 1999, so I don't know if they had their own before that. It's possible, and a lot of towns didn't early on. They just used the Secretary of the Interior standards and went with that. So as far back as we go with it is 1999.
I can't think of her name, but the one lady that worked in the inspection department did all the minutes and sent out all the mailings and all that, and I can't think of her name. She doesn't work there anymore, she's in New Buffalo, but she worked in the inspection department. And she so if there's records, they would be in the inspection department, I'm thinking that.
I mean, I have 2 file cabinets of records for roughly each property.
Okay,
Some of those records go back into the early 90s.
okay, okay.
Um,
Well,
I move we adjourn.
do we have anything else we need to,
I just hope that we'll keep these items on the agenda so we'll continue
Yes.
to talk about it.
and Larry, you
Yeah, I
are
just have
gonna
one
go?
more question. Deb, do you have any sense, like, if a town our size hired a consultant, what that would cost?
Logansport was looking at that. They have some less people than you have. And they gave a couple different proposals. It was based on how many public meetings, because that's where a lot of the time gets eaten up. And I think it kind of ranged from $5,000 to $7,000, and that was 2 years ago. So
Okay,
should give you an idea.
yeah.
So just add 1,000 or so to that.
But the community meetings are the important part.
They are.
The most
They're
important part.
huge, absolutely. So I think it was worth the money. That was with Kurt West Garner. He's from Plymouth. He's amazing. He's done these in other areas before. He's probably the only local person that I know, relatively local,
Yeah, that's
but
only
quite
a problem.
reasonable.
Yeah.
Another one that they mentioned in that webinar was a group out of Chicago called the Lakota Group. Had you ever heard of that?
I hadn't, no.
And he was one of the guys that spoke, and he was very good also.
He was, yes. Yeah, and so it's something too, you could put out a request for proposal, request for quote, RFP, RFQ, and get bids from lots of different consultants, well, hopefully, from lots of different consultants, and you could compare.
That's a good one.
Is it just a matter of saying what would be like what would be your cost proposal for putting together a plan for Michigan? Is it just as simple as that?
It's roughly a letter, yeah, you can spell it, you can make it as detailed as you want, and on the NAPC website, they have sample letters that you can access to get an idea of what kind of stuff is good.
Because I would imagine these consultants, I mean, they've got a template that they can
Right,
just
yes.
customize to us.
Mhm.
So it's not like they're gonna
Yeah.
invent the wheel.
No.
No, they
No,
probably
it's
have the
already
wheel
been
there, what, and
Yeah.
somebody to grab it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that something we should do officially as a body? Request some proposals from?
Wouldn't be a bad idea. Look, I can send out some sample letters too, so you guys can look at those, so you can see what other groups have asked for fairly recently.
And I'm kind of thinking what Larry just said, the simpler, I think, the more responses you'll get. If you get into too much detail,
Yeah,
a lot of consultants don't want to get into that.
Yeah, I would rather they tell us
Mhm.
what they would offer and for how much,
I agree.
and see how which one fits our
Okay,
needs.
so if Deb sends us some letters, if everybody gets a chance to look at those and then see which one you feel, so that when we come together, we can have that, we don't have to talk about it so much, so, okay?
Great. And so in addition to that company that worked in the Logansport and then this Lakota group, are there others?
I think there's some on our contractor list. I can look at that and see who all, because I know we have some on there. I'm just not real familiar with them. Kurt's kind of our go-to person because he's local and he's pretty reasonable. But
Okay.
it would be good to, put it out there and give people a chance, see
Sure.
what you can get.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay, anything else? All right. Call for the motion. Roger?
I'll second it.
Roger wants to adjourn. And Greg is seconding. All in favor? Thank you all very much. I know we're a little longer, but I think we accomplished a lot. Thank you, Deb.
Sure.